Remember the other day, yesterday, when we were solving problems like this? X minus 5 equals negative 12. What were they doing to X? Right up here. Well, they were subtracting, so what did we do? To both sides. You remember a problem like this?
Yeah.
What are they doing to X? Adding, so we on both sides. That was your addition and subtraction properties of equality. Well, guess what they're going to be doing today? Multiplying or dividing. What is the inverse or opposite operation of multiplication? What undoes multiplication? Division. What undoes division? Multiplication. So write this down. Your multiplication and division properties of equality. It says if we multiply or divide a number on one side, what do we have to do?
Do it on the other side?
Do it to the other side, right? Do unto one side as we do unto the other side. Do you have those properties written down? Multiplication, I just put them both together rather than have to write it twice. Are you guys all right with that?
Yeah.
In order to keep your scale balanced, if you multiply on this side, to make it heavier, you got to multiply on this side. Keep it equal and make it heavier. If I divide on this side, you got to divide on this side. BS, right? Both sides. Do unto one side as you would do unto the other side. All right, so let's write down. It says solve and check. Oh, yay, I get to know if my answers are right. Whoop, whoop. Number 1. It says, I read it as x over 3 equals negative 6. But what does this line mean? What does it mean? Divide. What undoes dividing by 3? What's the opposite of division?
Multiplication.
So we're going to multiply both sides by the same number they divided by. So multiply both sides by 3. Draw your line. X divided by 3 times 3? No, look at, I'm going to put this times 3 out here for a second. See this right here? That 3 is 3 over 1, isn't it? What happens to the 3 in the numerator and the 3 in the denominator?
Cancel out.
That's why we're doing it. They become ones, right? They cancel. So we have x on this side equals, what's negative 6 times 3? Negative 18. How do we know if we're right? I'm going to stick it right back up in there. Negative 18 divided by 3. What is negative 18 divided by 3, Chase? Negative 6. Is that what we wanted? Yep, it checks. Number 2. It says 18 equals negative 4y. What does it mean when negative 4 is sitting next to y, Chase? So you can put a little dot in there if you want to. You can put a little dot in there. They are multiplying y by negative 4. What undoes multiplication? So put your wall up. I'm going to use a fraction bar to show division. Okay? I'm going to divide by the same number they multiplied by. Here's why. Negative divided by negative. How many negatives are you dividing? So the sign is positive. That's why it has to be divided by a negative. So these cancel out. 4 divided by 4? 1. Is 1y the same as y?
Yep.
That's why we did it, you guys. Now over here, what's a positive divided by a negative?
Negative.
Does 4 go into 18 evenly?
No.
Just reduce it to its simplest form, which is negative 9 over 2, right?
Yep.
I'm going to let you leave it like that. Here's your check. 18. Is that equal to negative 4 times negative 9 over 2? Well, negative 4 can be written as a fraction because it's rational. So it's negative 4 over
1.
1. What should we try and do?
Cancel.
2 goes into 4 how many times, Bailey? Bailey, what's a negative times a negative? And 2 times 9? Is that what we wanted? And it checks. Number 3. What does not look right about number 3?
There's no number on that.
There's no coefficient, Sam says, right? But it's there. We just can't see it. What is it? I'm going to stick the 1 in between the negative and the m. What does that mean that they're doing? Multiplying. So what are we going to do to undo multiplying by negative 1? Rachel? Divide both sides by?
Negative 1.
Yeah, negative 1. You have to divide by the exact same number. If I said divide by 1, I would get a negative answer. Negative 1 divided by negative 1.
M.
Positive m, right? And what's m going to equal? 24. Plug it in. Negative 1 times 24. Is that equal to negative 24?
Yes.
Sure is. Do you have to show your work like this?
Yes.
It says negative 4/5 x equals negative 8. What are they doing to negative 4/5 and x?
Multiplying.
They're multiplying, right? What are we going to do?
Divide.
We're going to divide both sides by negative 4/5, right? Okay, so these cancel out, leaving me with x here. Uh-oh. See this right here? It says negative 8 divided by negative 4/5. How do I do that? Gabby? So it's going to be negative 5/4. Aren't we multiplying by the reciprocal? Yep. So cancel. 4 goes into 8 2 times, right? Negative times a negative. 2 times 5. 10. Okay? You guys, anytime they have a fraction like this multiplied by the variable, you know what the easiest thing is? You're going to have to divide, right? Right? So we can't divide. We know we have to multiply by the reciprocal. Watch what happens if I do this. Let's say I go like this. Multiply both sides by the reciprocal. That's negative 5/4, isn't it? What happens to the negatives here? They turn into positive. What happens to my 5s?
They cancel out.
4s?
Cancel out.
I'm left with x equals, don't I get the same thing? Don't I get 10?
Yeah.
If you know you're multiplying by a fraction, you can either divide both sides by that fraction or you can multiply both sides by the reciprocal of the fraction. Look at number 5. It says negative 10 equals negative m over 3. Do you guys want to know how many negatives are there here? How many? Right here, the one I have circled.
Oh,
1. If I write it like this, how many negatives are there? 1. Is that the same thing? Hello? Yes. What if I write it like this? How many negatives do you see? Is it the same thing? Do you want to make your life easier on a problem like this? Make it negative 10 equals m over negative 3. That way, what are they doing to m? They're what? Dividing by negative 3. What are we going to do? Multiply both sides by negative 3. Because these are going to cancel, leaving me with m. Negative 10 times negative 3. Negative times a negative. Check it. Put it right back up in there. Negative 10. Is that equal to negative 30 over 3? Well, 30 divided by 3 is, and that's negative 10 then, right? It's opposite. Is that what I wanted? Check. We know these words. Quotient means divide, product means times, and is means equals. Copy this story problem down because you're going to have to do all your story problems like this, and I will tell you there's one like this on the test. 75 cents is a unit rate. So let's say I sold 4 papers, what would I do? Multiply. If I sold 8, I would multiply. Do I know how many I sold? What? We got to define our variable. Let n equal the number of newspapers. Do you have to do this? Do you have to define your variable? Yes, the answer is to that. Yes, you do. They will make you do it on the iLearn. So Caden was saying if I sold 4 papers, I would take 75 cents times 4, right? What would I do if I sold 8? 75 cents times. What if I sell n number of newspapers? What would I do?
75 times n.
75 cents times n. How much do I want to make? Which means I want that to equal $36. What are we doing to 75 cents in n? So what do we have to do to solve for n? By 75 cents? Which one goes underneath the division? Numerator under, denominator out. Can I divide like this? No, I got to move the decimal twice, which makes this decimal move twice, which means it's really 3,600. Bring the decimal straight up. How many times does 75 go into 360? So this is 4. 4 times 75 is 300. Subtract, we get 60. Drop down your 0. How many times does 75 go into 600? Well, if it was 4 times and I got 300, how many? It would be 8 times. So n is equal to 48. What's my label? Look at the way you defined it. Newspapers. Okay? So any story problem you have, you're going to need to define a variable, write an equation, and solve.